Welcome to Fiber Trek. I've got Morgan joining me this week. We are a little late releasing the program due to lots of unforeseen circumstances, such as traveling, sick dogs, exams. They weren't unforeseen, actually. Those were all... I think I was in denial about the exams. So anyway, it's Saturday, May 10th, and this is episode 7. We're so glad you joined us. We're so glad that you came back, and I get to use the word we because there is, in fact, a we. And you are glad that they've come back,
I'm
right?
so glad that you've come back.
We've had a few people introduce themselves on the boards this week. So we had Crafty Knitter 7. She's from Canada, and she is a co-host of Two Tangled Skeins, which is a great podcast that was one of the first ones I started watching. And her ultimate fiber trek is to Ireland, because that's where her husband is from. We also had Marianne H., and she is a new spinner. So... slippery slope, Marion, slippery slope, as you will soon see, because we're going to talk a little bit about Maryland sheep and wool. And then we also had Pena, and she is a New Zealander who is living in the U.S., and she has just started spindle spinning. So lots of different techniques for both wheel spinning and spindle spinning and different outcomes. So feel free to, I don't spindle spin, so feel free to share the work that you've been doing. It'd be great to see. Her ultimate fiber trek will always be going home, but who can really blame her because it's New Zealand. So this week on the episode, we're going to have works in progress and finished objects, which is part of the reason I coerced Morgan into joining me because she's got far more going than I do as far as projects go, or just something new for you to look at because I haven't finished anything. And 2 weeks ago, we went to Starcroft. Yep. I didn't get any knitting done. Then I had a week, and I know you're all going to be surprised because I drove to Maryland and I had like 12 hours in the car, but I didn't get anything done. I made progress on things, but nothing was finished. And then, so I figured we'd just spice it up a bit here with some other projects. So there's a lot of works in progress today.
Add some flavor.
Some flavor. Flavor to Fiber Trek.
Yes.
So, we should not talk like that.
No, we shouldn't.
Especially when it's being recorded. Then we're going to do acquisitions and discoveries, which will probably be the bulk of our experience together today. It's a big bulk. We're going to do Fiber Trek, the Island Wool Knit Along, and a fond farewell, I think. Yeah, and I think Maryland Sheep and Wool recap will happen throughout the experience. We'll kind of relive that through the fiber acquisition. So, with no further ado, we'll hit right with works in progress. We'll just leave off the finished object part because that just...
Because there are none.
Because there are none. So, I'll go first since Morgan's working on some charts, so we want to give her plenty of opportunity to figure out where she is. I cast on Shieldmaiden by Emily Estrada of Fibertown. While I was in the car and at Maryland Sheep and Wool. This is a shawl with a cable edge, and I am knitting it for the Island Wool Knit Along out of North Ronaldsay yarn. For some of you who have been following the episodes, North Ronaldsay is near and dear to my heart because I have very close friends who live in Orkney, which is an archipelago north of Scotland, mainland Scotland. And this sheep exists entirely on seaweed. It's been fenced off the island to grow pasture for cattle, actually. And they exist entirely on seaweed. Plus, they are very primitive breed, dual coat, ancient throwbacks to Vikings and other seafaring adventurers of the North Sea, which just is a nice romantic vision for me. So I'm very attracted to that type of yarn, as some of you may know. And it's usually gray. So this is gray. But let's go ahead and take a look at it. So I've gotten quite a bit done, actually. And you can see that cable edging. I'm always end up looking underneath here. Hello,
you
there.
You can see it. Looks really nice.
Yeah. And then she's done a lace insert on the very center back, which is reminiscent of a lucette, which was a Viking tool. There it is. And I figured for the Island Wool Knit Along, Vikings, Viking yarn, and Viking settlements. There are Viking settlements in Orkney. as well as some primitive Norse settlements. I mean, not Norse settlements, primitive Stone Age settlements. That this would be perfect, and I think it will look really nice with the panannular brooch.
Yes.
So it's all coming together. So Shieldmaiden by Emily Estrada. She has the Fibertown podcast. I'll talk a little bit more about my meet and greet with her later on, but this was a really fun pattern. And if you have a yarn that you really love and just want to work with the yarn, this pattern really lends itself to yarn experience, if you will, because for me, it's not a highly concentrative or intellectual, intense, charted pattern. So I really just get to enjoy the active knitting and the fiber and that whole texture experience. So great pattern. Thank you so much, Emily, for throwing this out there into the world of design, because I'm really enjoying it. So that's North Ronaldsy for the Island Wool Knit Along, which is running until the end of June. And you can learn more about that on the boards, and we may chat a little bit about that because we got to talk about Morgan's
Yes.
Island Wool. The other thing I have on my needles, as many of you know, it was so funny. I posted on Instagram today a picture of the Shieldmaiden, and I was like, people, there's so much gray. I need a color intervention. And Emily commented that, wouldn't it be nice to work with a shade of green as a way to transition? And I was like, is that a subtle hint that I should be working on my Burnham wood capelet? So I've been working on this capelet for nigh on a year. I bought this for as my birthday yarn last year. This is Stansborough Gray. Its root breed, it's its own distinct breed, but its root breed is Gotland. So that's a nice, lovely Longwool. And again, another island breed and another rugged, primitive, Viking-esque, probably even pre-Viking breed of sheep. The nice thing about Gotland is that, because it's, the nice thing about Stansborough is that it's farmed, sheared, prepared, and milled right in the same area, and it's all worsted preparation. So the fiber is combed, all of the fibers align, which is a great way to prepare long wool. We'll talk a little bit about that. Excuse me. And then it's spun worsted. So we're not talking about a weight in this instance, but a technique. So worsted spun means all the fibers are aligned and everything is going into the twist at the same level, or I wish I had better adjectives to describe that. It all goes into the twist uniformly, versus a woolen spun where you're roving, your fibers are kind of jumbled and they're pushing out on that twist. So ends can be sticking out and little bits of fiber. So it creates a loftier yarn versus the worsted spun yarn. So worsted spinning can often also help to mediate pilling because of the preparation. There's not as much opportunity for the fiber to escape the twist, especially if you do a high twist and you multiple plies. So you're cutting down on that opportunity for surface area for fibers to escape. So anyway, here it is. This is by Romy Hill, or Rosemary Hill. She has very much known for her lace designs and gorgeous lace designs, and she also designs jewelry. She's a fun one to follow on Instagram. I follow her quite a bit. I've knit this once before. This is my second time round, and I'm almost done. And I'm not going to count off how many rows because we kind of had an epic record fail. There was some counting issues with fingers, so I'm just not even going to go there. So, yeah, so I am very close to being finished with that, and happily so. So you're going to notice that long wool is kind of a running theme. I just dropped some stitches, so I'm going to take a moment to just grab those. The other work in progress I have, which I'm not going to bother to get into, is the Rhoda Brioche cowl. And I'm sure that will make a return here pretty quickly.
That has some serious color.
A serious color, I know. And I was doing really well on it until I was distracted by gray.
Gray.
North Ronaldsy.
So much gray.
Scratchy, crunchy, hardy, put me on the ship in the North Sea, keep me warm, gray. So, yeah, so what do you have for...
So I'm almost done this row, but I can show you. I am working currently on the Guernsey triangle that I believe we talked about the last time that you had me on, but I was about to start it. I hadn't started it yet.
Okay.
We were talking about enabling.
Yeah.
And so this is the Guernsey triangle. Currently working on it with Brooklyn Tweed Loft in the Barn Owl colorway that Sarah gave me for my knitting day.
Yes.
And I am absolutely loving it. Loving the yarn, loving the pattern. Can't wait to wear it. All things are thumbs up.
Yeah,
with
thumbs
this.
up. We're not big modifiers. I probably should have commented. Almost all these patterns that I'm knitting, and I think the pattern that you're knit, we haven't really modified stitch counts or anything like that. So we're pretty by the book.
Yeah.
That's how we roll. And the only thing, I mean, you're knitting that on the recommended needle size. I'm knitting on all the recommended needle sizes and the patterns. So you can certainly, I may have gone up a size in the Gotland, but you can certainly check out our project pages for details on what we've done with the, if we've shifted the pattern in any way. But I think for the most part
Yeah, and for the most part, I think the only shifting I've done is yarn weight and needle size. And that was just by necessity. It wasn't really by choice. I just really liked
that,
like with the with this sweater actually,
that sweater,
and with the Brush Creek that I'm going to be doing for the Island Knit Along.
But these projects are pretty much by the book.
Yes, yes. So the other project that I'm currently working on, I was also working on last time. I just finished the main body section, and I'm about to start the sleeves on the Sullivan cardigan by Whitney Gregg Harrison. And so far, so good on the noops.
Yeah.
We had one
Nope.
noop
Problem.
slip up. Slip
noop
noop,
up.
a noop up. We did, but nothing that we couldn't kind of blend in and fudge, and it looks great. No one can tell. I showed my mom. No one can tell.
That's the beauty of that.
That is the beauty. So I'm currently working on that, and I'm about to start the sleeves, which hopefully I can cruise right through and get some serious progress done on that. And because after I finish the sweater, I would really love to start the Piper's Journey.
Yeah, we both have that one.
We both have Piper's Journey. Yeah. And I'll be knitting that with Quince & Co.
Oh, yeah.
Chickadee. Yes, very exciting.
What did we get for that?
What did we get?
So
the project that, or should I talk about that after when we talk about acquisitions?
I think what's about acquisitions.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
So we're good. I can show what the Guernsey triangle will look like.
Yeah, Morgan's really prepared with the...
I'm very prepared.
Take a look and see.
Excuse the reflection. So that's the Guernsey triangle by Jared Flood.
Yeah.
And I'm very much looking forward and probably going to do it again at some point in the future. That's how much I like it.
Wow.
I really like it. Yeah.
Yeah, there was a little moment there with the charts. We were a little intimidated, but
I was intimidated.
We pushed through that.
I did.
Pushed through that independently too. So.
And I realized I can't do it on my tablet. I had to print it out and use a highlighter.
And that's okay.
That's how I'm gonna get through it. So every row I finish, I highlight.
Yeah, so that's pretty much works in progress and finished objects. Part of my tangent on the preparation of the Longwool was twofold. One was you're going to see a running theme with what came home from Maryland Sheep and Wool. And the second was I had been listening to the Knitmore Girls, which is an audio podcast, which is downloadable and worth a listen. It's a mother-daughter, or as they say, a multi-generational podcast. And they were talking about pilling and ways to minimize pilling. And while I do agree that it's inevitable, I think that, again, your fiber choice and preparation is a huge element for consideration when you're looking at how the garment's going to be worn, which was part of the reason I re-knit the Burnham Wood capelet. I had knit it out of a wool silk, which I think was merino silk. It's Universal Yarns. And it was just too delicate for me for the purpose of that garment. I really wanted that garment to be something that, almost like a plaid from Outlander, the book Outlander, or Scottish history. The plaids they use for bedrolls, warmth, shelter, you name it, that's what they used it for. And so I really wanted my garment to be more reflective of that lifestyle than something luxurious. And because I think that my lifestyle tends to be a little bit more rugged. Like, what's the word?
What is the word?
With a lot of dog walking and dog hair and getting caught.
We're outside a lot.
So those are, and you'll see that consideration was definitely taken into consideration. So usually there's like one word that I just kind of like latch onto, and that's the word for the entire episode. Oh, good God. Let's just go to acquisitions and discoveries.
Yes.
Stop talking, Sarah.
Okay.
So
where do you want to start?
I'm going to start with, I bought a fleece. Yeah. So it's not like I don't have enough fleeces. I don't have enough. All of the fleeces I currently own are all dual coated fleeces, and they're all in the medium to coarse range. Again, I don't really like that word coarse, but so it's going to be no surprise about what I brought home and what color. So I wasn't going to buy a fleece, and I went to the fleece tent with Sarah Pomegranate of Yarns at Yenhu, who I met at my first stop at Maryland Sheep and Wool, where I bought more fiber, and went into the fleece tent, was looking at so many fleeces, spied Emily of Fibertown, was able to signal her in a very dramatic way, mainly by hollering across the fleece hall with Sarah, and lots of screaming and waving, and then that was basically the first meet and greet, and which just seems appropriate.
Yes.
I mean, what else are you going to do? And so while I was in there, I was looking at fleeces, and I'm an amateur kind of fleece person. I've always used my own fleece, and so I just take what I take versus selecting fleece. So to go in and be able to evaluate what you want, and not just get roped in by perhaps feel, but understanding what actual content is in the bag. It's really hard because they are bagged, and so you really have to kind of take some time to evaluate what you're getting. And it's an investment. Some fleeces are more of an investment than others. So that being said, I looked at some Monadale fleeces. I was looking for a Clune Forest. I was looking for fleeces that were rare or hard to find for me. And I found a Gotland, and I came this close to buying it, but I just wasn't there with my knowledge. So I had spied earlier in the day at a booth, a woman was selling her Leicester Long Wool fleeces, and I fell in love with it. Of course, it's gray and charcoal and brown, so what's not to love? It's like silvery gray, and if the Long Wools are known for their luster. Excuse me. So I picked this up. Let's see if I can grab some for you. In here. And you can see that this is a very distinct looking staple. I'll pull this. It's a very long staple. The staple is measured from the tip end to the cut end on the sheep. And you don't stretch it, you just let it be who it is. You can see there is some veg matter in there. Doesn't bother me one bit. I don't know if you can. And yummy smell. And you can also see that the crimp action on this is quite wavy versus kinky, I guess would be a word you could use to describe it. So this is going to have lots of beautiful drape. It's going to have lots of beautiful luster and surface area along the fiber for the light to play off of it. So that's where you get that beautiful gleam and sheen to this. I'm going to prepare this. I'm going to wash and hot water baths. I'm going to do that to get rid of a majority of the lanolin, and I'm going to comb it, and then I'm going to spin it worsted. And I am a worsted spinner gal. I can spin semi-woolen, so semi-worsted, semi-woolen. I don't know which one it is. Where you prepare it and then either roving or top, and you can spin from the fold. So you kind of spin off this portion of your finger, or I spin long, short draw, whatever, this inchworm draw. But I love worsted yarns, and so this will become beautiful worsted yarn. I'm not sure if I'm going to 2-ply or 3-ply. One of my goals with this was to create a really beautiful lace weight yarn to get that drape and that sheen and do something with that. Mm-hmm. Now I have 4 pounds of this fleece. On average, these animals can produce anywhere from a 15 to 18 pound fleece. They can be shorn twice a year. This particular girl was 8 pounds, and I have half of her fleece, so I have 4 pounds. I bought it skirted, and I got to talk to the owner about the animal, and I got to actually feel the fleece of the mother. So the mother-daughter were there. I put it through a little bit of a strength test, so I was listening for that sound. You can hear it. And you can see that it's not ripping or pulling apart. If you take a look at Fibertown's video, this past one, she discusses her fleeces and how she evaluated for hers. She talks a little bit about the concept of tenderness, where fleeces can break apart when you do that. And doesn't necessarily mean it's not a viable fleece or a fleece that can be used. It's just something to be aware of regarding that sheep. Those tender spots can be produced for a variety of reasons. Most likely it's going to be a stress-related experience. So remember, animals are converting their protein into fiber, so diet is very important, and weather is very important, and then of course the reproductive experience. One of the interesting things about sheep husbandry is that wethers, which are castrated males, tend to make or produce the best fleece because they're not under any reproductive stress. They're not mating or breeding animals, and they're not producing babies and having to deal with milk and all of that strain that pulls on the body, and which would divert energy from this to producing beautiful, gorgeous lambs. So I think potentially in my future I might just have a wether flock, and wether is spelled W-H-E-T-H-E-R, I think, for that reference. So Leicester Long Wool and worsted. Gonna comb it. Got good strength here. Typically when you're buying fleece, you can ask those questions: is it skirted? What was the sex of the animal, etc. And we in Scotland, where was I going to go with this? I was talking about fleece and came and went. So. Oh, was I going to talk about combing? I don't know. Anyway, the other exciting thing about fleece and Scotland is that I'm hoping to bring home a hand-spinning fleece from the flock in Orkney, which I believe is Shetland Texel and a meat link, which some of these breeds you may not be familiar with because they are specifically designed for adding meat to other breeds, and that is one of them. So we'll see what I come home with and what that looks like. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there. It's on a roll.
You were on a roll.
It's on a roll. Anyway, I'm really excited about this, and I'm also really excited to watch Emily. She is all over it right now. I got a lot of lanolin on my hands, and really inspiring me to get my arse and gear and get some of this washed and get my wheel organized and get the rest of my other fleece combed and quit my day job and
let's do it.
Become a hermitess, a fiber hermitess in my hermitage here in northern Maine. So raw fleece, 4 pounds, came home with it. Lots of work.
Yes.
I also came home. Morgan is like my Vanna. I also came home with 8 ounces of Hog Island, and Hog Island is, well done, you're learning. Hog Island is a rare breed, as is the Leicester Long Wool. I'll talk a little bit about that. This particular sheep was on the barrier islands off of Virginia, Hog Island, and it was left out there, typically rounded up a couple times a year. I'm sorry, I'm getting confused with Nash Island. The inhabitants of that island left in the 1930s, and they left the sheep, and those sheep became what's considered a feral breed. So I got this color, of course. This is Rue. It's the name of the sheep. There are only about 200 of these sheep left or registered in the United States, so they're a very critical conservation breed. This is prepared by the Finger Lakes Woolen Mill, and they're in upstate New York. And they also have their own breed, as does the Mount Vernon. I think it's the Mount Vernon Ladies Association, but I can't remember. So, I really just got this to spin for the experience and to create some yarn. I have no idea what I would do with it. It's a shorter stapled fiber, and this is not prepared as combed top. You can see that. Let's see here. This came out of a carding machine. So all the fibers are a little willy-nilly, but for the most part organized. And there's a little VM in there, a little veggie matter. But I'm really psyched about that. I'm trying to convince my husband to buy me another wheel, but he doesn't understand why I need another wheel. And I was like, fair enough, I don't need another wheel.
Maybe someday soon, though. He is getting really into it.
He is. And he actually started as a spinner, and he had a drop spindle. So maybe Rob needs to buy a wheel.
Yeah, that you can use. Maybe you should
Usually,
buy Rob a wheel.
Usually how it rolls. So pretty much everything right now is still on the rare and critical breeds list. I also brought home Three Waters Farm. I had a really nice conversation with Marianne. Nope, it's the turquoise.
The one that I grabbed.
You're going to be really happy with this color because it's not gray or brown. So Marianne is a dyer with Three Waters Farm. She's also animal. I almost call her an animal husbandryist, but that's not going to roll. So we're going to do a shepherdess and farmer. And she does dye her own animal fiber, but she also dyes a variety of different types of fibers. This happens to be BFL, or Blue Face Leicester, and it's more turquoise than that. I'm going to spin it worsted, of course. It is another long wool, has a lot of the same characteristics as the Leicester Long Wool. It's probably a derivative breed. And what else? Yeah. I had a really nice conversation with her about the importance of local yarns and how great being able to work with different farms and procuring your fibers and procuring your yarns can be, and how satisfying that is. And we also talked a lot about Fiber Trek. So I really enjoyed being in her booth. She was very accommodating. There was a colorway that I really wanted, but she only had it in superwash. And so she did say that she's going to have that in her Etsy shop. So her colorways are repeatable, so you can certainly request what you'd like. So I think this is 4 ounces, and it's Blue Face Leicester top. So that means that this is combed fiber versus roving. Was that it for fiber?
No.
Oh no, then I brought home Jacob, which is not a long wool, but a rare breed, all the same. This is from, I think it's Jenny Jump Farm, and she's out of New Jersey. I know I keep mentioning Emily, but I was really inspired by some of her ideas. So she bought a Jacob fleece, a raw fleece, and she's going to spin a gradient with that. She explains that more in her video. So I was a little like, because there are 4 different colors here of varying shades. So I thought that might be a good idea for me. So I think I'm going to split each of these in half and spin a 2-ply out of each half, spin a singles out of each half, and then ply those together for a 2-ply gradient. Will that work? I have no idea. So, Jacob, Leicester Long Wool, Hog Island, and BFL. That's what I came home with for spinning fiber, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I think so. Just because I need more spinning fiber. I don't have a lot of prepared fibers. Most of my fiber is raw fleece that I prepare myself, so it was a little bit of a treat to have something just come to me ready to go. So I can just sit down and spin with it, which has been a little bit of my sticking point, as I explained before, with the Corriedale Shetland I have that I've got to comb, which is one of my goals this weekend, aside from studying for my final exam. and speech language anatomy.
And then you're going to teach me to comb.
I'm going to teach Morgan to comb, and I also bought a
So
set of
I
hand
can-
cards so she can do that while she's here. She
Yeah.
comes for dinner quite a bit, so while I'm cooking dinner, you can be carding my fiber.
Yep. Perfect.
I know.
Win-win.
I know, it is a win-win. So we'll have to move into the yarn.
We will. What are you thinking?
I'm thinking whatever you throw at me, I can make it work. Jacob. It's gray. I know. This was my second purchase of the day. My first purchase was the Hog Island Rue in the dark, brown colorway. And then I bought gray yarn. I couldn't resist this. I had to have it. This is Jacob sock yarn from the same producer as the fibers I bought. This is Jenny Jump Farm. And I'm going to knit Ann Hansen's waffle cream socks out of this. And it's lovely. It's got a really nice hand to it. It's going to bloom, and I think it's going to feel really good on my feet.
Perfect.
I probably won't wear them running, but I think that they'll be nice winter. Part of me doesn't like to knit socks so much because I have the dogs, and the dog hair is just out of control. So anyway, who knows? That was my thought when I bought it. And then I fell in love with, this is from Blue Fields Farm. This, I gotta stop doing that. She is a farm out of Virginia, Madison, Virginia. She's Icelandics. But she also goes to Montana once a year, and she brings this home from 13 Mile Farm. They are, I believe, a mill in Montana. I got this plum color. And this is organic wool. And it's really interesting. It says certified predator friendly. If you're not familiar with that concept, there is a lot of debate, especially in the western states, on protecting the livestock, the livestock ranch sheep. They are prone to coyote incidences, bear, wolves, catamount, those types of animals, which, the sheep are easy pickings. So there's been, instead of eradicating the predators, there's been a huge push for mediating that experience, and one of those is with using dogs. So like my dogs, Fern, who's a Great Pyrenees, and Co, who's an Anatolian Shepherd. There's a variety of different derivatives too of the Great Pyrenees that range and lots of different names. But those dogs are bred, or they were bred. At least the Pyres were bred in France for protection against bears. The Anatolians, they originate in Anatolia and were used as guard dogs. They have recently been imported to Africa, or being used in Africa at another predator-friendly program with cheetahs. And they are known to take on lions. Although if you met my dog, Koe, you never would know that.
Never.
Fern, on the other hand, Shieldmaiden, on the other hand, those dogs can have up to a 300-mile range that they'll territory that they'll patrol, and they can take on bears and wolves. One of the interesting things about the Pyres, as well as the Anatolians, is they have a lot of skin around their necks. And that's so when predators get a hold of them, they actually don't get a hold of any of the important structures, mostly the jugular and the carotid arteries, so that they can actually withstand quite a bit of interaction, if you will. So donkeys, llamas, those are other guard animals, dogs. So predator friendly, that's something you can look for if it's something that's important to you, but I just happened to notice it on here.
Yeah.
And it says here, our Montana sheep provide the organic fiber for 13 miles, natural colored and plant dyed yarns. And the mill celebrates the diversity of what grass can grow and what people can create close to home. Our solar hot water system, semi-worsted spinning on small-scale machinery, and plant-based hand dyeing are consistent with the land and flock management outside. So this is all plant dyed. I couldn't resist it. It's so gorgeous. And you're like, yay, it's not gray. Whether or not I'll actually knit with it is another story. And then I got this beautiful indigo and the green. So I just couldn't leave this. I had to have it. So.
I like the predator.
Yeah, the predator thing's just interesting.
Cool.
Yeah,
Very cool. I like that.
Yep. I have to agree with Morgan. I'm a bit of a predator fan, even though I'm wicked softy, and it breaks my heart to even watch my ducklings get picked off by eagles. But on the other hand, everybody's got a place in the choir, you know.
Exactly.
So,
And apex predators are extremely important. And we deal with this not as big of a scale as they do out west, but we deal with it here with coyotes.
yes. Yes, we do. Don't even get me started on my soapbox and coyotes, because I bought my husband this, the Northwood Sporting Journal for Christmas 2 years ago. And it had like fly fishing articles in it, and it had an article written by an old park ranger about different adventures that he was on. I thought, oh, this is great. And then I read it, and like 50% of the magazine, and I know he's going to be like, it's not 50%, but a lot of the articles in the magazine are about the evils of coyotes and how they're ruining the deer population in Maine and how they should be eradicated and how to eradicate them, and they're going to kill your babies if you don't eradicate them.
Yeah.
So I immediately told Rob I would never renew that again, and they're never getting my money. And now he buys it himself, and every time he brings it in the house, I'm like, curse you! Curse you for giving them our money. But it's actually his own money, but anyway, so we won't go into coyote politics right now, but
it's closer to home than
yeah, and that's why I
can
actually had
appreciate
Fern.
it.
So I had a series of coyote incidences with my flock of Icelandics, and we used Fern to mitigate that. And while she was on guard, I didn't lose one. And one thing that was really interesting to me about this dog in particular, I don't know if this is all Piers, but I would see her, she would round the sheep up, like just like a herder. She'd round them up, put them in the barn, and then she'd lay in front of the barn doors. Now, granted, Coey was already inside, probably sleeping and eating, but Fern was the real worker dog, which is why she has such a strong place in my heart. So working dogs are really interesting. Guard dogs are really interesting, and they're not to be trifled with either. If you visit ranches or you visit farms that have working dogs, the dogs really aren't pets, and they should be respected that way. And their job is to protect the sheep, and so our job is to realize that and keep well clear and check in with the shepherd or the shepherdess about the status of their dogs. So Fern and Coa were both socialized heavily with the farm because I ran a preschool and I had field trips, so they were very much a piece of the educational programming. But Fern is very dog aggressive, which she should be, because dogs can also be a problem. We had an issue with the dog getting in with our Icelandics a couple years ago and ripped one of them apart in shreds. Actually, that's not a very pretty sight, so sorry about that descriptor. But she lived. She was great, and we stitched her right back up and with the vet. And she,
good.
Yeah,
Happy ending.
Happy ending. And that's why the fleece is really important. So the fleece would actually help to keep that problem. But had I had Fern down there,
Right.
no problem.
No problem. Yeah, Fern would have put a stop to that.
Sorry if you're sensitive to those types of topics, but such is life.
Such is.
So I also picked up some spun BFL, or Blueface Leicester. This is from Schweitzer Farm. They're in Pennsylvania. This is their own animal. They had a variety of fiber. They had Shetland blends, and I may actually get back on their website because they had a beautiful Shetland Lincoln or Shetland, maybe it was Shetland BFL blend, which would be perfect for socks. And I wanted Rob to buy that, but he didn't. So here it is. And it's a gorgeous gold color. You'll recognize that color. I have a lot of this in my stash. It's irresistible. I plan to knit the winnowing shawl with this fiber by Bristol Ivy, which is a Wool People pattern. So I knit that once out of Elsa Wool, Cormo Elsa Wool, and she's out of Colorado, and I gave that away with a slight bit of regret. It was gorgeous, but now I have something beautiful to work with to do that again. And was that the last?
That's the last in this.
Yeah, and the only other piece I bought, which I'll talk about these particular breeds probably at another time. My mom wanted a sweater similar to, or the sweater, which is, though such a winter's day, I knit out of the Romney, the Maine Romney. So we went and looked for yarn for that. This is from the Barefoot Spinner. She's from West Virginia, and she prepares her own animal fibers. This happens to be from her neighbor. And this is a California Red and Shetland blend, and I'm really psyched to work with California Red. It's a little bit more oatmeal-y than that. The reds do have a reddish cast to the fiber, and I'll talk a little bit more about them in another series or another episode. But this is going to be for Mom. And I love it. I love the way it feels. It's a wool that makes you happy to be alive. You just know it's going to do its job and hold structure and keep you warm, and so it's a protective wool. So I like that.
Rob's? Is it not
Rob's is not around, so I'll show you that on the next episode, because I actually would like to show you his knitting yarn, or his knitting, what he's actually doing. And he squirreled it away like he usually does. So, yeah. So I'm really psyched about the purchases. I think that they're all very thoughtful and have expanded the stash. I felt a little bit like, whoa, when I got home, but I'm plowing through some of my projects. Like the Shieldmaiden made me feel good. Like, all right, I can cast on something else. So.
Yes. And you're about to go a long time.
A long time. Yeah.
Right.
Potentially.
You're prepping.
I'll have to start selling my body so I can buy more yarn. I don't know if anybody would buy. So I did bring something home from Morgan. Is that inappropriate? We go from like predator control to prostitution. P to P.
There you go. Sarah did bring something home from me. She did not have to.
I know, and I wanted to keep this, but I didn't. Because I'm a nice person.
You did. It took some persuasion from her mom.
I know. There you go.
Sarah brought me home this English Leicester Long Wool from Cranberry Creek Farms, and it doesn't have a colorway, but it's like an emerald.
Use your descriptor.
What is the
Mallard.
descriptor? Oh, yes, that is. We came up with this.
You did.
It looks exactly like the head of a mallard duck. That is the color of this yarn. Exactly. It has, because of the luster, it's got that kind of almost iridescent seeming sheen to it. Mm-hmm. It's absolutely beautiful. Very excited. Thank you so much.
You're
Sarah.
welcome.
And so I have 2 skeins of this, and I have yet to decide what I'm going to make with it, but something drapey, we decided.
Yeah, something like a shawl maybe, or
Yeah. And so I'm excited. Yay.
So the thing about Leicester Long Wools, which is I mean, I didn't really purposefully buy all long wools, except for the Jacob, of course, and the Hog Island, but it was just really interesting and curious to me that a lot of what I brought home was a long wool breed. The Leicester Long Wools were once extirpated from the United States,
Yes.
and Morgan taught me this word, and that really means to be extinct in one area. And it was in the 30s and 40s that they were extirpated, and they brought the fibers back. I think there was, like, what they say, 400?
500 here.
500 individuals here in the United States. And there's only 400 breeding ewes in Britain, or yows if you're from that area and like to use the terminology. So this really is a critical conservation breed. It is known for its long staple, as I said before, and I was just really taken, as Morgan pointed out, by the sheen and the way that the dyes played off the structure of the fiber. So the Leicester Long Wools, again, these guys are from Maryland, and that was another important piece for me, is that we bring home somebody from Maryland's wool. The other interesting thing about this that we read was that this particular farm likes to use hand shearing,
Right. Yes.
which are the hand clippers, because it minimizes second cuts, and they're part of like a slow fashion movement or slow fiber movement. So
That was very cool.
yeah, in shearing, when your shearer goes over the same spot twice on an animal, it can produce shorter fibers, and these are called second cuts. And they need to be taken care of because it will create inconsistency in your yarn. Some of you may know that who are spinners. And in Britain, when I was rolling fleeces, you'd pick your fleece up. It comes off the animal in one sheet. It looks like the animal, and you pick it up in a certain way with your fingers like this. You pick up the back, the next part, and the front. And you walk over to your rolling table and you throw it out like that, and it lands open up on a table that has all these rollers on it. And you roll the rollers, and that gets rid of the second cuts. You pick out your veg matter, and then you take care of your dags, which is kind of the shape part of the animal, the hind end of the animal. You take care of that, and you try to preserve as much of the original fleece as you can, but you need to get rid of what are generally undesirable elements that you don't want being seen when the grader is looking at your fleece. So once you skirt your fleece, the belly wool gets put on top. The fleece is right side up. You fold it up, you roll it, take the neck wool, make a hole, put the neck wool in, and it's a nice, beautiful little sleeping bag bundle. And that goes into a big burlap sack. And on the farm in Orkney, the children would walk on top of that sack to push and compress all the fleeces, so you can get as many fleeces as you can in these big wool sacks. And then you stitch them up with big, long needles. And they get forklifted out to the pier and onto the ferry, and off they go. So, I don't remember where I was going with that, but I think I was talking a little bit about hand shearing and taking care of how that fiber is coming off the animal is just as important as how we choose to prepare it. So, because again, it's all going to play into the quality of the fabric that you get. So, yeah. So the Leicester Long Wool, I'm looking forward to working with it, as you have to. Just very quickly about Maryland Sheep and Wool, on the social side, I met Sarah Pomegranate of Yarns at Yinhu. She met me at the Hog Island booth and was such a supportive element to my whole day. Got really excited about conservation breeds. We went to the breed barn together. She joined my husband, my mom. My dad went off to watch the border collies and take in all of the sites. Wasn't so much into the vendors, but that's okay, Dad. And Sarah joined us, and we just had a lot to talk about and exchange ideas, and my mom learned a lot, and Rob was really into it, and it was just a really informative kind of day. And to be able to come together with somebody you've never met and spend a couple hours with them and not once lack for conversation, or it just never really felt like we didn't know each other. So, and she joined me in the fleece tent, and it was just fun. Downright good old fleece fiber fun. And she went off to do some other errands and bits and pieces that she wanted to do. She had a very limited budget when she was there, and it was impressive. But one of the things she did choose to buy was the Hog Island fiber. So thank you so much, Sarah, for supporting Critical Breeds. And she talks a little bit about that on her podcast, Yarns at Yinhu. We also went to the podcaster meetup together, and I met Emily of Fibertown, and I met Emily of Wet'cha-Swatchin', and I got to talk to some people who actually recognized me, one person actually, and she's getting ready to leave on her Appalachian Trail section hike, which is very exciting. I sent her over to talk to my husband about the experience, and so she was really enthusiastic about what we're doing, and I got to talk to a lot of people about Fiber Trek, a lot of vendors. Ross Farm Fibers, who I'll talk a little bit about next episode, is where my husband bought his yarn, and they're very much into conservation breeds and heritage breeds. So she and I were able to connect. I was able to connect with Three Waters Farm, the Jacob Farmers. So a lot of people were interested, and the T-shirts were very helpful, even though it was like total geek posse. But I was okay with that because, I taught high school, so I have no dignity left. But those were really helpful, and people were asking about that. I handed out a few buttons, and Sarah Pomegranate was really helpful because I don't know why I got kind of shy about the whole thing, and she'd be like, and this is Sarah, and Sarah has her own podcast, and she was just really supportive and putting me out there, so thank you for that. I had a lot of really nice conversations with a lot of really awesome people, and I think next year I would take Emily of Fibertown's advice and plan to go both days and be a little bit more relaxed in my approach. But I was juggling a couple different family dynamics and people wanting to do stuff and how they felt about it, and so, but I had a great time, and I think we learned a lot. So that's kind of Maryland Sheep and Wool. I could go on forever, but tons of fun basically sums that up for me. So the Island Wool Knit Along continues to the end of June. I'm working on with the North Ronaldsay. In the chatter thread, I think we have Falkland, North Ronaldsay, Shetland, Iceland, and potentially Gotland represented. I know that Pena, who's the gal, the expat she's not an expat, I guess, the Kiwi, I don't know if they call themselves Kiwis, right. New Zealander, she bought Hog Island at Maryland Sheep and Wool too, which is good fun. But she's looking at Gotland, Hog Island, and I think Marianne is also going to join in, and she's thinking about working with Icelandic because she has a strong affinity for that. So, woman after my own heart. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of representative breeds in there. If you're working with something and you want to share it, it'd be great. Let us know. And
think we're gonna do a fun farewell. Oh no,
you were gonna talk about
Yes.
your island wool.
So my project for the Island Wool Knit Along, I am going to do, let's see if I can pull it up here. I am doing the Brush Creek Cowlette. And there, sorry about the reflection. There it is. With the yarn that we so graciously were able to take home with us from Starcroft Fiber Mill. So Nash Island yarn. And we had the opportunity to pick through Jenny Estelle's test dye collection of all of the skeins that she had been using to try and test out the colors. So that was really cool. And so I'm really excited to work with it. I brought home these 3 colors I'll be using for the Brush Creek Cowlette. And they're not so true. This one is more like a light lavender and not so blue. And this one is more of like a silver gray. So I'm really looking forward to that. So that will be my Island Knit Along with Nash Island yarn. And I also brought home this green, and I think I'm going to be knitting a pair of mittens for that. For this, from the Favorite Mittens book.
Yes, by Robin Hansen, who's a Mainer.
So that'll be exciting, and hopefully I'll be able to do some color work with the leftovers that I have with the Brush Creek Cowlette.
Yeah.
And so
So those are long wools as well.
Yes.
They're Romney roots. So I think that's it for us. We've gone on for quite a while, and but we did get all the fiber in.
We did. That was good.
We did it. And we're gonna say a fond farewell. We're gonna have a little contest. I have some stitch markers to give away as part of fond farewell, if I can find them. That figures. They were right here. Curses. Here they are. So there's going to be in the episode thread, their question is going to be if you could go back in time to learn a technique or see an event, fiber-related event, or experience something in fiber, where and when would you go? And we're giving away these stitch markers from Blue Dog Woolies. She's based out of Portland, Maine. I have a couple of her sets. I love them. They're just kind of fun and whimsical. And she makes her own clips that they go on. And so if you're interested, these fit up to a size 9. They're her medium weight stitch markers. But go ahead on over there. We'll draw probably, we'll leave that episode thread for the drawing open for probably 2 weeks. So not next week on the next episode, but the following week. So where would you go? What and when? What time? So I'll include my answer, and Morgan can post her answer in there too. We'll talk a little bit about some of the thoughts that come out of that. Maybe I used to teach social studies, so maybe we'll have a little history lesson, a little textile history lesson. I hope you have a great week. I appreciate your patience as we get this out. If you want to find me, you can find me on Instagram. I love Instagram, and I'm always on Ravelry. I'm also on Facebook. You can email me at fibertrek@gmail.com. You can leave a comment on the blog. And I'm on Twitter. I don't Twitter very well, but you can certainly find me there. And go forth and be positive. I hope you have a great week.
Sitting at my seat, staring out the window, and if that bell would ring, then outside we would go. It's time to go to the playground. Let's all run to the playground. We can dance down to the playground where we can run around. It's time to go to the playground. Let's all run to the playground and have fun on the playground where we can run around. I want you to push me on the swing. goose. Do you wanna go back inside?